three factors that play a role in real estate, right? Oops. So is there any questions so far? Anything that you guys want to ask or clarify? Okay. So far, if I could categorize, in the first few slides we were discussing about how you list and evaluate commercial property, and then the next section was what are the three biggest things that play a role in appreciation or capital gain of a property. So now I'm trying to narrow down. So we moved from city to a special neighborhood. Now I'm moving to type of property that might be an ideal. My favorite type of property is apartment buildings. And in this video, I explain why apartment buildings are better than other type of properties that are available, like retail plazas or power centers or offices or things like that. There is a reason for apartment buildings, but of course there are some disadvantages too, which we will discuss. Slow.
Multi-residential properties are an investment choice for a lot of investors across this country. There is a lot of wealth created by investing in multi-residential properties. Of course, these properties are coming with a lot of advantages that may not necessarily exist in other properties. The biggest one, or one of the biggest one, is that you're getting the price per unit 50% lower than the brand new one. So for instance, if a unit will cost you to build 100,000, you're getting these properties at 50% lower. That means 50,000 when you buy these multi-residential properties that were built a few years ago. The other advantage is that usually multi-residential properties are protected during recession times. When the economy is not in good shape, people still need to live somewhere. There is a demand for rental properties. So these properties are protected, not similar to residential single-family properties, when a lot of transactions are mainly and mostly based on emotions rather than logic. And also these properties are protected because they are sold and bought based on income, on the net income, on cap rate. These are numbers that investors play with and has nothing much to do with what is going on with the economy. So these properties are more protected than your normal kind of residential real estate. The other advantages that come with multi-residential properties are that you're sharing your resources. You need one heating system to heat many units in the same building, or you need one roof, or you're taking care of one lawn. You're dealing with one contractor as opposed to many contractors if your properties are scattered across the city. So for instance, instead of having 6 units scattered, you will have 6 units in one building, which you will share your resources. Of course, the benefits are endless, but at the same time, these benefits come with some kind of caution for buyers. Buyers beware. There is a lot of more complexity involved. Your financing, your due diligence, your building inspection, your rules and regulations are a lot more complex than a normal single-family residential property. This is a huge step from a single-family investment to a multi-residential property. So you have to take care of a lot of diligence when you're buying multi-residential properties. And before I let you go, you have to remember that due diligence is the key to investing in multi-residential properties. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, so you guys can see what are the advantages, but I think let me tell you some of the disadvantages, which may not be mentioned in that video. The biggest one is dealing with tenants and property management. And as I was mentioning, there is a lot of rules and regulations around that. That's the first and biggest challenge. The second challenge is that most of these apartment buildings are older. That means it needs and requires more maintenance. But at the end of the day, as a package, if you want to consider that your client's money or your money doesn't get evaporated when the economy goes bad, and if you want to be protected, and if you want to be more on the safer side, I think generally it boils down, no matter what, still people need to live somewhere. People that have lost houses in the United States, they still rent. And there is a chart here that shows, this is, by the way, third quarter '07, that's Q. So as you can see, although for a short time, the vacancy rate was down, and this is the effective rent growth and the vacancy rate. You can see in this chart that although the general housing market has gone down, but still the apartment building is in good shape. You know what I'm saying? So which shows that people lost their houses, but still they will not live on the street. They will rent an apartment. So that's why, I mean, there is two things. Sometimes it's theory what I say, but this chart shows practical life. I don't think real estate could get any worse than what is going on in the US. So even in worst scenario like United States, still apartment buildings are doing much better than general housing market. Because people will lose their house and then go rent, right? So that's why these kind of properties are always better. And the other thing is that if you're buying in Greater Toronto area, this is from Stats Canada, that when newcomers come to Canada, they live, this is on average 2 to 3 years. So some of them might be lower or higher, but on average they live in an apartment for a couple of years. So that means there is always a demand for apartment building. Right?
But it's expensive to buy an apartment building in GTA area.
Yeah. For example, in Scarborough, it's not very expensive.
Scarborough.
Yeah.
So you're talking about anything 6plex and above?
Yeah, 6plex and above. Even 4plex or duplex. But as long as the numbers make sense and what is your affordability and how much down payment your client or you have. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend, because in the business that we are in, and if you select this as your long-time career, unfortunately, as a salesperson, you don't have much of a retirement plan. I don't know if you might have RRSP or whatever. If I was in your shoes, because I'm doing the same thing, I would consider this as an option to retire. You can start with one house that you can rent. And even, it doesn't have to be an apartment building. It can be a townhouse. But as long as it can cash flow, as long as it is not very high-end rental. So buying a condominium in downtown Toronto that you have to rent $2,500 to cash flow, it might do now, but I don't think in bad economy it will be rented for $2,500. I don't think there will be a demand for $2,500. So it should be more in the range of an average person, like $1,000, $1,200, maximum $1,500, with that kind of a range, that even if things go bad, you can rent the place, right? So if I was in your shoes, imagine if you buy a townhouse, let's say in Stouffville or wherever, or even in Scarborough, if you wait 20, 25 years, you will have $300,000, and the tenants paid everything for you. Even if it breaks even, forget about the monthly cash flow that you will have an extra income. I will not add or consider that. After 25 years, you have some retirement plan. At least start for yourself with one property as a retirement plan. You just try to find the down payment from somewhere, either from your line of credit or other savings that you have, or maybe talk to your friends and partner with them, anything. I think I would do this. This is a long-term thing for yourself. And if you add those three if you can find a property with those three factors, that in a town that is coming up, it's beside a boom town, and railway or subway or something is expanding there, that will be an even added bonus. So this should be something for yourself too, not just for your clients. Okay, we went through these slides. Now we will talk about the difference between a commercial and residential transaction. Yesterday or day before yesterday, we were looking at the difference from a financing perspective. Today with this video, we will look at it from a legal perspective. And I have interviewed the same lawyer that I have been playing videos, Maria Diaz. So she will elaborate that residential closing or transaction is not same. There are some other criteria, and even the fees is different. You have to be aware of it. It is not as simple as the other one. Any questions?
No, I imagine it does get pretty heated sometimes with every
Which one?
Get pretty heated when you get everybody together sometimes.
Oh yes, yes, yes. And I think with residential it is very regular and people get along, but with commercial a lot of sophistication is involved. And I think one couple of things that you should know about commercial real estate agents. First of all, the closings are longer. So if you buy a residential property, generally you will close in 60 days or 3 months or something like that. And most of the time it will close on time. And most of the time there is no problem. With commercial properties, last minute there could be a problem that the deal will fall apart or it will be extended. And it is more common for a commercial property not to close on time. Yeah.
But how about this multi-family dwellings, like the 4 flats, 6 flats? Have you, or do you know that there are a lot of problems that comes into it, or not that as much?
If it is up to 4plex, as you know, it is considered residential.
Right.
From lender's perspective. For you, it is commercial because it's investment.
Right.
But from lender's perspective, it is considered as a residential.
Right.
So the only added complexity in that transaction is that your lawyer has to make sure that he has the acknowledgement from the tenants that are already living, that they have paid, for example, their last month's deposit, and how much it is, and what are the terms, and what are the leases, when are the leases expiring, the profile of the tenant. So that is an additional thing to do, but it is much less complex than a true commercial property.
Right.
And commercial property that is a apartment building, let's say 20 or 30 or 50 unit, compared to an office building, is even still difference in those transactions and compared to a commercial plaza. So it gets more complex. But again, if I was in your shoes, let me repeat myself, because unfortunately we don't have any retirement plans personally. Because I do this and I'm sharing this as a side business, beside you being an agent, you will try to establish a brand, a name, or even a corporation if you're really into it. So basically, the way I structure it, and it is very common too, is that you become the center of the universe. You basically will take all the responsibilities, such as managing the properties, finding the properties, dealing with the tenants. You will educate yourself on the rules and regulations of dealing with tenants. Dealing are in 2 ways, legal ways and also communication skills and psychological skills, how to deal with tenants. So, and it's not very difficult. I can suggest you books that you can buy and you just read, and it's not, you know, yeah, it's not something very sophisticated. I mean, it is sophisticated for an average person, but since you're in this industry, you should do that. So, and then you try to start with, let's say, your very close family and say, let's buy this townhouse. You come up with the down payment, which is now required to be 20%. Before, it could be even 0%. I have bought properties 0% investment. But anyways, now you need to buy 20% down payment. So let's say if it's 300,000, they will come with 60 or 70,000, including the closing costs. So you say, okay, you come up with the down payment. Let's buy this for 5 years. I will do my due diligence. I will find the property. It's my expertise to find those 3 important factors that play a role. I will keep on searching. I will find a cash flow property. I will manage the property for 5 years. After 5 years, we share the profit. Or if you're holding it for a long time, then we will, whatever, we will do 50-50. So it's like a joint venture agreement that you sign, and your lawyer will prepare that you will sign. But it is a very good idea for both of you. It's a mutual benefit because you take all the headaches, but because this is your profession, this is your full-time job, you have the time to do that, and it is worth it for you. But at the same time, it is worth it for him because he's a silent partner. You will get the benefit of all the work and expertise that you will put in, and you will just not do anything. Right? So if I was in your shoes, and if you want to have a long-term plan, that should be an option that you should work on as a side business. And by the way, I mean, these transactions that happen, you also receive your own commission because you're a real estate agent too. But you could be more important than the commission. That's the least of my concern, is the long-term wealth creation.
So for example, if someone gets a fourplex,
Mm-hmm.
which is considered a residential, and that, let's say, like I'm looking into it, for example, right?
Mhm.
I have a mortgage that I'm paying, and I'm getting a fourplex residential, which is considered a residential property through the lender's eyes.
Right.
I need to come down with 5%.
No. 20, unless you live there as in one of the units as your principal home.
Okay. So I need to come down with 20% for
Yeah.
the property. And how about getting the loan then? That should not be a problem because it's the, what I'm trying to say is that to qualify for a loan, because the lender's going to say, okay, you have a mortgage here, you're putting 20% down, and you have this residential property, which is
Yeah. So again, this will work in two ways. Either you can buy it in your own name. If you're buying it in your own name, they will consider the rental income, but not 100%. So basically, they will create a chart. This is your income, which is from your job and other sources, and the rental income.
Right.
But the rental income from that fourplex they will not count for 100% of it. They will count for half of it.
Okay.
And then on the right side, they will put all your liability, monthly liability. So your own principal mortgage payment, your car payment, and whatever else payment,
Right.
and this mortgage for the fourplex. If it works, and if the TDS and GDS ratio works with the bank's requirement, then they will give you the loan.
Right.
Optionally, oh, okay, but we're almost done anyways. Don't worry about it, we're almost done.
You gonna do that first then?
Sorry?
Because you have the 7% battery life.
Yeah.
No, the battery is 27.
Okay, maybe if you don't mind, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, or alternatively, what you can do is you can work with another person or other people, your friends, and you can build this business. And each townhouse is bought by them, and in each one of those transactions, you're a 50% partner. And eventually, this will become your full-time job. I think from the circle of influence that we touched upon in our first day, you have the opportunity to also approach them for this reason. There are people that are your friends that they have busy life, they have a little bit money, a little bit saving, and they want to invest. There can't be better option than this if they trust you. Of course, let me remind you that it will not be easy because dealing with tenants is not the best thing in the world, but I mean, it's worth it because it's your time and it's your skills that's counted here.
So the Tenancy Act, Residential Tenancy Act, applies to both areas, apartment building, or whether it's a twoplex or fourplex?
Yeah. Even your basement or a townhouse or a 20-unit residential tenancies act the same for everyone, as long as they're...
So if, for example, instead of getting it personally under your name, if you set up a corporation and you have 2 or 3 partners in a corporation,
Yeah.
then the lenders will look at the whole mortgage as a different process.
Still, they will have to qualify you,
Right.
unless the corporation has a good history. They will ask for at least a couple of years of statements of that corporation. If that is running business and it had a good income, they will consider. But if it's a brand new corporation, it really doesn't make it. You are still the person that will sign the documents.
Right.
Still, they have to qualify you because corporation doesn't mean anything. It's just a $300 you went to Ministry of Consumers and registered.
Okay.
It's just a piece of paper.
But if, for example, like a corporation, 3 partners come in and they put 50% down payment to buy that property.
Still, they will qualify those 3 people.
Right.
Yeah, not the corporation.
Right.
So they will ask for the income statements and job or whatever for all those 3
Right.
people.
But
It
it's
could-
a better opportunity.
Yeah, there are 2 different issues. The title could be in the corporation's name, but they will still have to qualify you,
Understand.
unless the corporation is an established corporation.
Understand. Okay.
Yeah. But I will consider what I suggested because I'm doing it, so I will consider the same thing for you guys.
Yeah, I saw your thing on the kitchen.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I think the last session about is, and these days this topic comes a lot, is the real estate cycle. So even though if you buy the best properties in the best location with those 3 factors in mind, it's still real estate cycle is a force that will impact everything. So the properties may not appreciate, even if it is near a subway line or whatever, because the properties all of a sudden might go down 10, 20, 30% down. And real estate, like economy, is a cycle. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. No one can predict the duration of a cycle, whether it's up, down, or recovery, but we know that it will happen. History has shown that real estate cycles happen, but the duration is different each time. Sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 20 years. Nobody can predict that. Okay, so just some basics about how real estate cycle works. It is basically, real estate goes through these 3 cycles that you have to be aware of, which is recovery, boom, and slump. And it is based on the law of supply and demand. And supply and demand is based basically on economies, which is, these are the key drivers for real estate. Vacancy rates, what is going on in the economy, which is gross domestic product for a country or a province or wherever it is, days on the market, listings, property construction, so that means how many condos are coming up or new properties, how many people are per household, the financing available. You don't have to go into detail, but just you have an idea that real estate cycle is closely connected with economy. And it boils down to basically these 3 things. It is the people, the economy, and the emotions. Now, emotions also play a role. Sometimes for example, they say this such and such country is in recession. And yesterday it was not in recession, and today it is in recession, but it makes a big difference in market and everything. Have you ever thought why? Because nothing can change that much in one day, or even in 1 week, or even in 1 month. It has to do more with emotions, which is psychological. When people start thinking negative about their future outlook, then they will spend less. So that's why psychology also, or emotions also, play a role in these cycles. Of course, these are the outside influencers. So the 2 key terms that you should keep in mind, and it's confusing, is drivers are fundamentals. Influencers are like external forces. It is not the fundamental key drivers. For example, interest rate is one of them, or government legislation. If tomorrow the government decides that the minimum down payment should be 50%, it will impact real estate substantially. That's like not a key driver, it's an influencer. Do you guys see the difference? Okay, so when it is recovery time, during this time there is a lot of fear in the market because they have gone through slump. So everything is affected. Nobody wants to buy real estate. Everyone is on the sideline. And during the boom time, it is just the opposite. Everyone is like having fun. Everyone thinks that if I buy real estate, I will become millionaire. So everything is positive. That's why everything is going up. And of course, during boom time, everyone is greedy because everyone wants to make a lot of money, and that's when most of the mistakes happen. Right? Business-wise, the biggest mistakes happen when people are greedy, and personally, when we are proud, we make the biggest mistakes. Okay, so and then the slump phase is, of course, when things become making more sense, things become more affordable. It's like the bottom line, and this is between slump and recovery is the best time to buy real estate. And this is something a lot more sophisticated than these slides, and this is just to give you a basic idea that there are 3 phases of real estate. This is a cycle that real estate goes through, but sometimes even these 3 phases are influenced by influencers, such as interest rates. Like right now, our economy may not be in the best shape, but still real estate is very hot. It's because of interest rate. And other time, it could be also a government legislation that will make a difference in real estate prices. But fundamentally, that is the cycle, the slump and recovery and boom. Okay, so any questions? or clarifications? Because our session is ending here. It's a little bit maybe shorter. I tried to make it shorter today.